day, they called me the problem. Not because I had done something wrong, not because I had hurt anyone, but because I refused to stay silent. My name is Olivia, and for almost 6 years, I worked at a successful marketing company. I was the employee who stayed late when everyone else went home. I covered shifts, fixed mistakes that weren't mine, and gave everything I had to a team I believed was my second family. At least, that's what I thought. My manager, Rachel, always smiled when she saw me. She praised my work during meetings and often told others that I was one of her most reliable employees. But something changed. At first, it was small things. Important emails stopped reaching me. Meetings were scheduled without my knowledge. Projects I had spent weeks creating suddenly appeared under someone else's name. Whenever I questioned it, people exchanged strange looks. Olivia, you're overthinking. You're being too sensitive. Maybe you're creating problems where there aren't any. Those words slowly became a routine part of my life. Every time something felt wrong, somehow I became the one being blamed. I started doubting myself. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I really was the problem. But deep inside, something felt off. The workplace that once felt warm now felt cold. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Coworkers who used to laugh with me suddenly avoided eye contact. And standing at the center of it all was Rachel. Her smile never disappeared, but it no longer felt genuine. It felt calculated, like she knew something I didn't. One afternoon, I walked into the break room and heard my name. The moment they noticed me, silence filled the room. The air felt heavy. I pretended not to notice and grabbed my coffee. As I walked away, I heard a whisper behind me. "She's still here," followed by quiet laughter. That was the moment my heart truly broke. Because betrayal hurts most when it comes from people you trusted. That night, I sat alone in my apartment staring at the city lights outside my window. I replayed every conversation, every meeting, every strange interaction. The pieces didn't fit. Something was happening behind my back. And for the first time, I stopped asking whether I was the problem. Instead, I asked a different question. What if someone wanted me to believe I was the problem? The next morning, I arrived early, hours before everyone else. As I organized files on a shared company drive, I noticed something unusual. Several project folders connected to my work had been edited after I submitted them. Files had been changed. Data had been altered. Comments had been added under my name. Comments I had never written. My stomach dropped. Suddenly, everything started making sense. The missing emails, the failed projects, the criticism. Someone had been quietly sabotaging me, and somehow, everyone believed it was my fault. I wanted to confront Rachel immediately. I wanted answers. But something inside me told me to stay quiet, to watch, to gather proof. Because if someone was willing to destroy my reputation, I needed more than suspicions. I needed evidence. What I didn't know then was that uncovering the truth would expose lies far bigger than I ever imagined. And when those lies finally came crashing down, the same people who called me the problem would desperately wish they had listened. Over the next several weeks, I became someone different. I stopped defending myself. I stopped arguing. I stopped reacting. Instead, I paid attention. And what I discovered shocked me. Rachel wasn't just manipulating my projects. She was taking credit for work from multiple employees. Whenever a campaign succeeded, she presented it as her achievement. Whenever something failed, she found someone else to blame. Usually me. The more I investigated, the more evidence appeared. Emails forwarded without permission. Reports edited after submission. Performance records altered. And somehow Rachel always remained untouchable. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation outside her office. Rachel was speaking to one of the senior executives. "I've been cleaning up Olivia's mistakes for months," she said. My hands shook. Months? I had never made the mistake she described. Yet she spoke with complete confidence. And the executive believed every word. That night, I cried harder than I had in years. Not because of my career, but because of the loneliness. There is a special kind of pain that comes from watching people believe lies about you, especially when you know the truth, especially when nobody asks for your side of the story. For a while, I considered quitting, starting over somewhere else, leaving everything behind. But then I remembered something my father used to tell me. The truth doesn't need to scream. It only needs time. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of strength. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to surrender. I was going to expose everything. I began documenting every interaction, every file change, every suspicious email, every inconsistency. Slowly, a pattern emerged.
And it wasn't just about me.
Rachel had been manipulating company records for years. Several former employees had resigned after being unfairly blamed for failures. Others had been denied promotions based on false reports. The deeper I dug, the darker the truth became. Then, everything changed. A company-wide audit was announced. External consultants would review project performance, financial reports, and management practices. Rachel looked nervous for the first time. I noticed it immediately. The confident smile disappeared. The calm voice became strained. And suddenly she started acting unusually kind toward me. But it was too late. I already knew who she really was. When the auditors requested employee feedback, I submitted everything. Every document, every screenshot, every timeline, every piece of evidence. My hands trembled as I clicked send, because I knew there was no turning back. Either the truth would finally come out, or I would lose everything. For days, the office felt like a storm waiting to explode. Whispers filled hallways. Executives held closed-door meetings. People avoided eye contact. And then one Monday morning, everyone received an email requesting attendance at an emergency company meeting. The moment I read it, I knew the truth had finally arrived. The conference room silent. No one spoke. No one else. The CEO stood at the front holding several reports. Rachel sat nearby, looking pale. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the CEO began speaking. The audit had uncovered serious misconduct, manipulated performance reviews, unauthorized document alterations, misrepresentation of employee contributions. A wave of shock swept through the room. People exchanged stunned looks. Some couldn't believe what they were hearing. Others suddenly understood things that never made sense before. Then came the moment I will never forget. The CEO revealed the individual responsible, Rachel. The room froze. Every face turned toward her. The same woman who had spent years blaming others. The same woman who had convinced everyone that I was the problem. Now her own actions stood exposed. She tried to defend herself. She blamed misunderstandings, technical errors, miscommunication. But the evidence was overwhelming. The truth was stronger than every excuse. Within days, she was removed from her position. Several investigations followed.
Policies changed.
Employees who had been unfairly treated finally received recognition. And for the first time in a very long time, people started apologizing to me. Some apologized for believing the rumors. Others apologized for staying silent. Their words couldn't erase the pain, but they helped heal it. A few months later, my life looked completely different. I was promoted into a leadership role, not because I sought revenge, but because integrity had finally been recognized. The greatest revenge wasn't watching Rachel lose everything. It was watching the truth win. It was rebuilding my confidence. It was realizing that their lies never defined me. For so long, I carried the weight of labels others placed on me. Difficult, sensitive, the problem. But those labels were never mine to carry. They belonged to the people who created them. Looking back now, I understand something important. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Not everyone who blames you is telling the truth. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is remain patient while the truth finds its way to the surface. Because lies can survive for a season, but they cannot survive forever. Today, when I walk into work, I no longer wonder what people think about me. I no longer seek approval from those who misunderstood me. I simply focus on being honest, kind, and strong. Because the people who once called me the problem learned a painful lesson. The real problem was never me. It was the lies they chose to believe. And when those lies finally fell apart, so did everything built upon them. But from those ruins, I found something far more valuable than revenge. I found peace. And no one can ever take that away from me again.